I'm Dustin Hirsch, and today I'm going to demonstrate on how to level a front mount deck. The model that we're working with here today is a 3661 deck model that's attached to a 729 tractor. Ideally, obviously the levelness of a deck is very important for cut quality and appearance on what the yard looks like. Typical times that you may have to do these types of adjustments is when something doesn't look right on your cut quality and one side's off more than the other. So that's going to require digging a little deeper into how to level the deck and just know how to as well in respect to getting that nice clean cut look in the yard. First thing that you're ever going to want to do in regards to leveling the deck is, on a front mount anyway, is making sure your tire pressure is correct on the tractor itself. We run different varieties of tire sizes. What you see here today is our bar tread tire. Most typically on tires and the rims, we will have a PSI, a decal for that rated of the tire itself. Sometimes that'll change between a bar tire and a turf tire, but typically between 8 to 10 pounds is where you're going to run in air pressure on the tires. And so most importantly is making sure the tire is level right out of the gate. That's the first thing you're going to want to make sure of, because if your tractor's off on tire pressure, then obviously your deck's going to be off. So always make sure you start with your tire pressure. Once you got your tire pressure set and correct, now we're going to start checking to see possibly how far off the deck might be in regards to left and right heights. A good tool to use is a simple tape measure. This will be the quickest way to really kind of just do a quick check to see what the height is of the deck. Running the height of the deck itself, you kind of want to get into that mid-range, if you will. You can come up and change the height of the deck by doing that with the powerful feature here. But kind of get into that middle range of height instead of all the way down or all the way up. Find something in the middle. And you can take your tape measure from the ground to the top of the deck shell, and just kind of get you a reference number here to compare the other side to. Now the other thing too that's important is when you're checking levelness, obviously it's making sure that the ground level is also more of a hard surface and also level as well. So always kind of work on a hard surface when you're checking levelness of decks. So we've checked the left side here. We've got a reference point. Now we can go over and compare it to the opposite side. The reason why I'm using the top of the deck shell as a reference point is the top portion of the deck itself is basically parallel with the blades, right? As long as we're running nice, clean, sharp, straight blades. That's another good point to also remember, is check and make sure we don't have a bent blade. So that at that point, you're pulling blades off, checking and making sure that they're not bent. So that's probably another thing to also make sure of. If you know your blades are good and they're brand new and they're not bent, we'll come over here on this opposite side and again get you another reference point of measurement. Now that we have those two differences, most likely, we'll have to do some adjustments to the deck. And in order to actually physically adjust the side to side of the deck, on all of our front mount decks, you always have adjusting rods, one on each side. These long rods that you see here running from the back to the front of the deck wheel lift channel. Essentially what's happening is this rod is kind of pulling and pushing on this lift channel, and that's what is changing your height to cut. In order to change this dimension, you're going to go to the front of this adjusting rod and you'll loosen this jam nut. And once this jam nut's loose, you'll remove this cotter pin and nylon washer and slide this heim joint off of this pin. Once you have that slid off, you can now rotate this heim joint either further onto the threads of the rod or further out. Depending on if you need to raise or lower it, for example, if you need to physically raise this side, you will shorten that distance. And so by shortening it, it's going to pull it tighter, closer to the operator, if you will, and that's going to pick the deck up. Just know that to raise the side, doesn't matter, you will shorten that distance. If you need to lower it, obviously you'll lengthen it. And you'll make that adjustment until you get both sides equal. Usually I'll just start on the left side and then I'll adjust the right side if need be. Just pick one side and adjust the other to that dimension. In regards to your side to side of the deck, those adjustments right there is what's going to have to be made. Now the other adjustment then too is the pitch of the deck. We always want the front of the deck to be lower than the back. And ideally you want somewhere between an 1/8 inch to a 1/4 inch pitch higher in the back of the deck than the front. On a front mount deck, to make that adjustment of pitch from front to back is actually going to be where the deck attaches to the actual tractor. And on the tractor, you'll notice we have multiple holes that you see here. We got 4 holes on each deck attaching bracket. To get that proper pitch, most typically, you're going to take a tape measure and you're going to, again, kind of start at the base of your surface, and you're going to measure up to those holes, and whichever hole is closest to 8 1/4 inch. It won't always be dead on 8 1/4 inch, but whichever hole's closest to 8 1/4 inch, that's the hole that you're going to pick and mount the deck to in respect to the tractor. If you go 8 1/4, you'll always get the proper pitch of the deck from front to back that you want. The importance of that is the quality of cut. As the blades are spinning around, we always want to just cut on the front half of the blade as it's going past the grass. In order for that to happen, that blade has to be pitched lower in the front. If it was level or lower in the back, then that blade's having to work twice as hard and your cut quality really suffers because now you don't get a nice clean cut one pass through. So that 8 1/4 inch, that's your proper adjustment location for the deck. The other thing too with the front mount deck that you have in regards to adjustability is 2 different ranges of heights of cuts. We have a high range and a low range. Now what I just covered there with that 8 1/4, that is going to be your high range. Okay, so this is your operator that's going to be cutting from 3 inches and higher, possibly up to 5 inches. Okay, now if you have a customer that wants to get down and mow, say like 1.5 inches per se, you got to get down lower with that. When you do that type of adjustment to get now into the low range, if you'll notice here at the front of the wheel forks, where your front casters go through, there's 2 sets of holes to choose from. Okay, now here, this setup, like we just talked about, is the high range. And so we always want the axle bolt in the bottom hole of the fork. Now, again, if your customer wants to mow lower, again, to that 1.5 inch range, we're going to have to raise your axle bolt to the second hole, to the top hole of the fork. Okay, we'll go to this top hole for your low cut range, but then also you'll have to make adjustments where the deck attaches to the tractor. And typically, you're just going to go 1 hole down of where it was at originally to get into that low range. So if I were to set this deck up into a low range, I would actually go down to the very bottom hole of where the deck attaches to the tractor. You follow those few items of adjustments, again, making sure you're on a hard level surface, making sure you got proper tire pressure on the tractor, make your adjustments side to side, get that dialed in, then make your adjustment of where the deck attaches to the tractor, again, making sure that you got somewhere between 1/8 to 1/4 inch pitch lower in the front of the deck compared to the back of the deck. With those adjustments there, you'll have an excellent cut.